volatility of oil prices are causing complications for the energy industry. One business affected is Petrofac. Now, it provides oil services in countries including Algeria, Oman, Syria and Kuwait. But it also has significant operations across the former Soviet Union and Africa. It boasts a record order backlog from the likes of BP and ExxonMobil. Higher demand for energy is pushing oil majors to invest more in new fields and pipelines, boasting demand for Petrofac's expertise. And the company is expanding into other areas as well, including carbon capture storage, as governments look to cut emissions. Well, all of this has helped Petrofac grow. Its shares have surged sevenfold since Petrofac went public in 2005. Well, the company's chief executive, Ayman Asfari, joins me now. He owns around 18% of the company. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you came out with results today, and actually you were saying that you had very limited impact on what's happening in the unrest on your results. Do you see it creating, though, some problems in the future?
Well, let's take Tunisia as an example. Our operation in Tunisia was impacted by shutting in our production for a few days. I went to Tunisia 2-3 weeks ago and I met with our staff. I went with the new minister, and what struck me is the degree of focus they have on restoring the oil and gas production back to its normalcy. If you look at a country, for instance, like Tunisia, the other source of income for them is something like tourism. It's going to take a long time for tourism to happen. So, I cannot predict that we will not have bumps in the road, but I'm looking at the macro environment. The macro environment is for increased demand for our services. This whole movement that's taking place in the Middle East is not, anti-Western or religious Islamist or anything. It's all about better management of the economy. It's all about increasing the revenue, about providing employment opportunities
and it's
for
domestic politics.
It is domestic politics, and if anything, the governments are going to be under increased pressure to increase their revenue, create employment, and so on. So, all I can say is, judging by our experience, for instance, in Tunisia, where we had exposure, the impact has been very minimal. I think there could be some disruptions, but I'm still a lot more focused on the long term and on the macro environment for our business, which continues to be very positive.
So what's your forecast for the price of oil? This must affect how many people ask you for business. So if it's at, for example, 110, 120, it may make sense more for them to actually try and get this oil out of the ground.
Well, believe me, Francine, our business will continue to grow at $70, $80. So really, $110 is there's a lot of risk premium in that price. The requirement for the resource holders to continue to spend capital, which is really the primary driver for our business, is going to increase, not because of the oil price, but because of the increased level of complexity and difficulty that is being faced by the industry to produce the additional molecules of hydrocarbon. So, the current oil price, there's a risk premium in the current oil price. Where will it end? I don't know. All I know is that the fundamentals for the industry continues to be strong. And I think one thing that the industry will focus on later on, which is today's focus is on the short-term volatility with regard to the region. But I think the long-term concern of the industry should be on the capability to meet the industry challenge, to produce the additional resources from a yet more difficult, background.
Talk to me about your order backlog. Is there a point where you have to stop taking on new projects because otherwise you'll be delayed with the ones you've already said yes to?
Good question. I mean, we're very busy right now. We have a record backlog. I think we've also secured a big order in January. I think the guidance that we're giving is that the first few months of this year, we're not expecting major awards. If there are any awards, it's towards the end of the year. And if we retain our order backlog at the end of the year, as we open it at the beginning of this year, we'll be quite happy.
In terms of extra demand, where is it coming from for your services? What kind of regions are asking for extra help?
Well, obviously, we see a lot of activities in places like Iraq. Iraq is growing rapidly. There's going to be a huge amount of capital spent by the international oil companies following their award of the licenses to invest. We see a lot of activity in our traditional markets continue to spend. We see activities in Central Asia. We're seeing a lot more in Southeast Asia. We're expanding our presence in Malaysia and the rest of Southeast Asia. And we're very much focused on West Africa as well. And all these regions are growing.
Are you concerned about your costs going higher?
Well, we're always concerned about the cost. I think cost inflation is creeping back into the industry. In our business, we have to manage this cost effectively, and we pass it on to to our clients and customers. But to be honest with you, in a price environment, the oil price has been making it up for the majors. So with the additional oil price, with the increased oil price right now, this is more than offsetting the increased underlying cost in the industry.
So any kind of input costs you're able to just pass on to the guys that hire you.
But we obviously, when we sign up a lump sum contract, we have to predict what this cost is, because we do take on the responsibility and we underwrite that cost. One issue that is of big concern to us is the inflation of wages and the availability of human resources that will be increasingly required in our industry, and that's something also that we have to continue to manage.
Ayman Asfari, thank you so much. A pleasure to speak to you, the CEO there of Petrofac.
Thank you.